What's up, Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bosk's Bounty video. Now, one of the most asked questions I receive on my weekly Q&A series Ask Boss Bounty is, what do I want the next Vintage Collection Haslab project to be? There's obviously a bit of a hot topic, so I thought I would turn the tables and ask you, the fans, what you would like the next Haslab to be. So at the weekend, I put out a poll to find out, and in this video, I'm going to be sharing the results with you, give you some stats to go with them, and also offer my thoughts on the top 5. So if you do happen to enjoy the video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's get into this. Okay then, so the poll received over 500 entries, which obviously isn't the whole community, but I still think it's a decent amount of data to work from. Now, I'm not going to lie, it wasn't easy for me to collate all of the results. Because I allowed for free text on the poll rather than a predefined selections, there were lots of different ways that you guys submitted your answers. Now, to give you an example, some of you entered the Cantina, whereas others entered the Eisley Cantina. So it took all of my Excel skills to truly make sure that every vote counted for each suggestion. So first of all, I just want to list a few of the ideas that only got mentioned a couple of times, just because I think it's interesting to see what some of you guys in the community wanted. Now, these included a new, larger AT-AT or AT-AT, TIE Bomber, which is one that was voted maybe 2 or 3 times. I thought that was a pretty solid suggestion. The AT-TE, a more in-scale Republic gunship, which has been discussed on a few different occasions. Clone turbo tank, which I absolutely love the idea of. I love that vehicle. I think, you know, a truly in scale one of those would be flipping awesome. The MTT from the Phantom Menace, Lars Homestead, and the barge. Now, a few of you did mention the barge because obviously I guess there's a few of you out there that weren't able to get that at the time, which is a shame, and obviously you want that thing re-released, which, to be honest, I do not blame you at all. So as I mentioned, all of the ideas that I've just listed there were mentioned more than once, but just not enough to make it into the top 5. So now we're going to move on to 4 ideas that didn't quite make it into the top 5, but still had a significant amount of people wanting them. So I thought they were worth sort of talking about a little bit before we do get on to the top 5. And the first one of those, with 2.4% of the vote, is the U-Wing from Rogue One. Now, I thought this was a solid idea for a Haslab. I personally would like this vehicle in the Vintage Collection in any way possible, really. The one that we had in the sort of movie-based line just isn't good enough. It is a bit cheap. So a larger version of that would be awesome. The problem with it is that we don't really have many of the characters to go in it. So that's the bit of the problem with that. But for sure, it's a very cool vehicle. Next up, we have Luthen's ship from Andor. Now, this received 3.3% of the vote. Now, I think this one got a low percentage of the vote because maybe it's new media. We don't really have the figures to go with it. I think some of you out there don't really like the Andor show, which, you know, for me, I find amazing because I absolutely love the Andor show, and that ship of his is one super cool design, and to have that in the Vintage Collection, I would definitely vote for that as well. So was surprised that got such a low amount of votes. Next up, we have, with 3.5% of the vote, so slightly more than Luthen's ship, we have the Ewok Village. And again, there may be some people out there that don't really like the Ewoks. They think that's they're the worst part of Return of the Jedi. I actually don't mind them, and I've got quite a few of the figures of the Ewoks, so to have an Ewok village would be pretty cool. We're getting the speeder bike, we're getting the bunker, so I think the Ewok village would go, hand in hand with that, and I think that would be a good Haslab to do, but only 3.5% of you want that compared to other things. And next up, we have, with 7.4% of the vote. Now, this just narrowly missed being in the top 5, and I was quite surprised that it didn't end up being higher, and it is a Death Star playset. Now, I think the problem with the Death Star playset for me is how they would accomplish it, basically. What rooms would it have? Would it have the trash compactor? Would it have the detention block? There's so many different parts of the Death Star, it would be very difficult to sort of decide which ones to focus on that set. And, you know, just saying a Death Star playset could mean anything, essentially. So there you go. Those 4 items there just narrowly missed out on the top 5. So now we are going to move on to that top 5. And in 5th place, we have a figure pack. Now this got 8.4% of the vote. And these figure packs were listed in various different ways. We had a New Hope Heroes. We had the Rebels from the Rebels cartoon. We had a bunch of Cantina aliens, Jabba's goons. Some people just said finish the 96 figure packs. So I collated all of those together and it got 8.4% of the vote. Now ideally we don't really want figures to be a Haslab. We want Hasbro to just give us the figures, but unfortunately we are in a bit of a situation where it's not 2008 anymore, and you know, figures are a little bit thin on the ground. We've got all this new media coming, and for Hasbro to keep up, it's just impossible. So that is why figure packs are being suggested as like a Haslab, so they can just like knock out maybe 10 figures in one hit, and you know, we wouldn't necessarily get those in the main line otherwise. In 4th place, with 11.7% of the vote, we have the Imperial shuttle. So this got just over 60 votes, I think, or it might have been dead on 60. And lots of you voted in different ways for this. Some of you put Imperial shuttle. Some of you put shuttle Tidarium. So, you know, obviously that particular one with the Rebel heroes in Return of the Jedi, it's the same ship as the Imperial shuttle. So I collated them all together. And, you know, that is in 4th place with 11.7% of the vote. Of course, that is one of the only ships that we have that hasn't had a new mould since the vintage days. They still have used that original mould. So it definitely could do with an update for sure. But it is in 4th place for what you guys want for a Haslab. Alright then, so in 3rd place, top 3 now. So 3rd place for the next Vintage Collection Haslab campaign would be the Ghost from Rebels. And I was actually quite surprised how high this featured in the list. So it got 11.9% of the vote. Once again, some of you just put Ghost, some of you put Rebels Ghost, some of you put The Ghost, but I managed to collate it all together and we came up with a score of 11.9% of the vote, which is ever so slightly more than the Imperial shuttle. There's like 1 or 2 votes in it basically. So the Ghost, I mean, it's one of those ones that's from a media that's from quite a while ago now. It is a bit of an iconic ship. The only problem is that we just don't have the characters for it. So I personally don't think that they'll go with that one. But I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think it's a pretty good idea anyway. In 2nd place with 12.1% of the vote is the Mos Eisley Cantina, or the Cantina. I think when people said the Cantina, we know which Cantina they mean. And this was separate from, you know, people that wanted Cantina aliens. This is purely a Cantina playset in Haslab form. As I said, it got 12.1% of the vote. I think it would be awesome. You know, there's lots of Cantina aliens that we are missing, and it would be a good way of, you know, kicking Hasbro into gear to actually giving us those figures. Maybe some of them could come with the Cantina as like stretch goals and things like that. So that is a solid idea. I know it's something that's really wanted out there in the community. And yeah, 12.1% of the vote. So what was in 1st place for the most wanted Haslab project for the Vintage Collection? And it is the Sandcrawler. And it got 14.6% of the vote. So it's not like a landslide or anything. It is only 14.6% of the vote. Obviously the top 5 kind of split the majority of the percentage, and then there was a lot of things with 1 or 2 votes. So that's a fair amount of people that want that. Again, people voted, you know, using Sandcrawler or the Sandcrawler or Jawa Sandcrawler. So again, it was difficult to sort of collate those results, but I managed to do it, and it's got 14.6% of the vote. Now, to be honest, this would be my choice as well for what I would want the Haslab project to be. I just think that it's something that could rival the barge in terms of size, and you know, it's got that sort of rustic look. We've got some of the figures for it, but I think also it would again kick Hasbro into giving us a new Farm Boy Luke. We could get an Uncle Owen. Obviously we've got the Jawa, we've got the off-world Jawa. I think they could make the Sandcrawler have a dual purpose. So you've got like the Mandalorian version and the A New Hope version. The Mandalorian version could have all those bits on the top and things like that, which are removable. I think that would be pretty cool. So from the point of the Mandalorian, I think we've got most of the characters that we would need for it. In terms of the original trilogy, you know, we need a new Luke, as I said before, Uncle Owen, release some of those droids and everything on the droid lineup, a new R5-D4, that kind of thing. There's loads of different stretch goals that I could come up with for the Sandcrawler as well. So I think that's a pretty good shout, and I'm not surprised that it did win the vote, although not by much. So there you go then, guys. That is the top 5 most wanted Vintage Collection Haslab projects. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. A lot of you used the comment section to cast your vote as well. I didn't include those. I only included ones that were on the poll because that would avoid duplications, because some of you may have commented as well. So I thought that was the fairest way to do it. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to know other thoughts of yours, whether you've got different ideas that weren't mentioned in this video. But I thank you all for watching anyway. I think it's been an interesting set of results to see what you guys wanted. But as I say, thanks so much for watching, and thanks to my Patreon supporters and channel members. Your support, as always, means a great deal to me, so thank you for that. Thanks very much for watching, everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.